Prime Minister Mayor Motley, Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Mark Golding, former Leader of the PNP, Dr. Phillips, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, as we gather to celebrate the 100th birthday of a great and visionary leader, Michael Manley, I feel like a fortunate punter who won the twin double at Caymanas in the Mute Mile last Saturday. I had to step to the crease because I have been invited to pay tribute to the life and political legacy of that towering icon, Michael Manley, in shaping the landscape of our nation and the voyage to regional economic integration, and also to introduce our distinguished guest speaker. I am privileged to do so as one who occupied the bridge between our legendary trailblazer, Michael Manley, and the advent to the helm in our region of Honorable Prime Minister Mayor Motley as Prime Minister of Barbados. She stands apart as the one who continues to provide outstanding leadership for the entire Caribbean in the international arena. There is a clear link, which is already evident, but it will become even more obvious to our proceedings here today. I have a lot that I will not say. Jamaica's fourth Prime Minister, Michael Manley, understood from the very start that our island's economic development was to a great extent determined by the abomination of slavery and colonial exploitation. He deplored that iniquitous global system which had resulted in adverse forms of trade, the absence of supreme control over our natural resources, and the denial of remunerative prices for our primary commodities. Manley recognized that in order to address these age-old deficits, there was required a framework that would also make the Caribbean voice stronger than the sum total of the region's separate voices. In conceiving and concluding the Treaty of Chaguaramas in 1973, Michael Manley was one of the four principal architects and engineers in that push to explore common incentive policies towards investment and a common external tariff. There are time limits which I will follow, especially as I see members of the judiciary in the House. I want to draw direct attention to one of the main significant features of the treaty, and it is that provision which relates to the conduct of foreign policy. Nowhere was that determination to chart our own course more clearly demonstrated than the earth-shattering decision by four Caribbean heads of the independent countries in 1972 to repudiate the U.S. punitive embargo against Cuba and establish full diplomatic relationships with an island that, whether others like it or not, is inexorably a nation of the Caribbean Sea. A few days ago, in light of emerging changes on the global landscape, Our longest-serving Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, well known to all of us, has warned, now more than ever, the unity of our Caribbean is essential. To that I say a loud amen. That bold step decades ago has yielded long and substantial benefits to our healthcare, our educational system, and a range of technical cooperation agreements in several fields, so that even those who were vigorously opposed then, whether for mischief or partisan advantage, have long come around to applaud and engage. The Cuban ambassador is in the house, and I ask him to take a message back to Cuba. Venceremos. "52 years after, when Cuba is experiencing severe setbacks to the deleterious effects of Helms-Burton and the horrible exclusion from trading access in essential supplies, as well as lucrative tourism markets, it is worthy of commendation that the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, was the first to step forward and offer maximum support in a time of dire need to a generous neighbor. I hope others will follow that example. Michael's mantra was the search for equality and the building of a just society, a cause to which he devoted his catalytic energy, his fertile imagination, all eloquently couched with his persuasive, his oratorical mastery. Whether in the fight for a new international economic order, the eradication of apartheid, the case for ideological pluralism, or obedience to one international law which applies universally to all nations and people, irrespective of wealth or military might, Michael Manley's inspiring voice brought a consistent sense of hope and purpose to the entire Caribbean region. Throughout Africa, the continent where human civilization began, but carved up and pilloried by European partners for their own aggrandizement. The world today renders us more vulnerable than ever was the one we knew. The existing global order is obsolete. It was fashioned by the victors of World War II. There is autocracy of the Security Council and impotence when a permanent member with veto powers is involved, as we see in Ukraine and the injustices in Gaza. The Bretton Woods institutions have become dysfunctional and obsolescent in facing the financial challenges that confront us today. New challenges have emerged with health pandemics, global warming, and the rapid changes with the advent of new technology and artificial intelligence. I don't think anyone can say it with greater conviction than I. As Michael Manley was for the NIU, no one has been more articulate in the last decade than Mia Mottley for that seismic abandonment of the existing world order and determined to include the interests of the developing world. To respond to this dire situation, Mayor has been the conceptualizer of the Barbados Initiative, which would entail significant changes to the entire international financial framework. It would unleash the new global response to mounting debt, global warming, sustainable development of small island development states. She chairs the CARICOM Commission on Reparative Justice. She is setting the pace in building the umbilical lines with Africa. That is why she is hosting in Barbados a Frexim Bank to serve the 6th region of Africa. Africa is now destined to be the continent of the future. So you can easily appreciate why our guest speaker is the ideal speaker for today's memorable event. I had to speak to her in avuncular tones yesterday to remind her of something Michael Manley wrote me when I succeeded him. He says, "The body has limits, and you are no good to the advance of the cause and the completion of the mission when you are dead." But of course, even though dead, Michael Manley speaks still. Our guest speaker is courageous, recognizing that we have the right to choose our own partners and build our own alliances. That's our right and our business, as Michael Manley said time and time again. She is prepared to school the president-elect on the devastating impact of climate change, including the United States, because the same hurricanes that hit us threaten to destroy portions of the southern states. So who better to grace us with this inaugural lecture as we commemorate the 100th birthday of one who was an apostle for the developing world, an evangelist for the sanctity of human dignity, and an unrepentant Caribbean regionalist. I'm not going to let out the secrets why, despite a demand for her at every conceivable conference and forum, she chose to be here to honor Michael Manley. I will let her reveal the details when she comes to speak. So, it is my privilege, on your behalf, to use this opportunity to present a brilliant leader who truly understands the complexity of our regional space and who sees clearly how best we pursue the course together to build a truly great and amazing Caribbean civilization. I present to you none other than the Prime Minister of Barbados, the Honorable Mayor Amor Motley.